Selectmen's Workshop for Monday, March 21st, 2008. We have a couple of items on our agenda. First of all, roll call. Got everybody here. It's good. Make introductions. Miller Lovett, Chuck Palm, Colette Worsman, Bob Flanders, Carol Granfield, and myself, Peter Brothers. Let's see. First item is W08-22, building permit request for a Class 6 roadway, Old Stage Road in Meredith. Carol, if you could lead us off with that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn this over in a minute to John Edgar, who will go over the staff report. This is a building permit request that basically has gone through the planning board. You have their comments, and before anything can proceed, the Board of Selectmen need to authorize approval. You'll note, and John will go over the various conditions. The reason we brought this before you to review and in workshop, and then we also have it listed as an agenda item at our following meeting for action, pending, unless there's a lot of issues or questions that come up, we then can, you can vote to go forth and approve it. There's several conditions. We're basically, at the applicant's request, trying to move things forth, and should all the conditions ultimately be approved, then you would have already approved it subject to those conditions, so it wouldn't have to come back. So in fact, it takes this action off the board's plate, and then the applicant can proceed accordingly. But that's, and subject to, if other questions come up, you may not want to act on it as of yet, but the format it's in is approval subject to various conditions, which means it wouldn't have to come back to the Board of Selectmen. So with that, I'll turn it over to John Edgar, who will go over the staff report.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got some brief comments in three areas. One is some background to make sure everybody knows where we are in town, and a little bit about the nature of the road from a historical point of view, the process that we have to follow, which is driven by an RSA, and then most importantly, the substantive comments that came out of the planning board review process. If I could just roll out this little map. This is just a basic map of town. I'm just going to where we are. This would be 104 coming in from Hampton. Merges through town. So if you're going back out of town, this is Winona Road that goes up into Hampton towards Ashland. This is Hatch Corner Road, which then merges with Winona. Old Stage Road is this road in here. And so we're a little ways out of the village, but not too far. Old Stage Road is to the best of our knowledge, a Class 6 road, which means it's a non-maintained public right-of-way. When you go back into the old files, there's 4 segments of road. This segment, the one we're talking about, this one, and then back to 104. And I guess the various segments have had various road names over its couple hundred-year history. So it's a little bit of a difficult thing to follow the ball. Which segment are we talking about, and what actions we're taking? To the best of our knowledge, this was an old range road, and I could show you an old range map if you wanted to see how this line correlates to the range road. Making it a public way, and we don't have any record of its discontinuance. So to the best of our knowledge, it kind of peel off all the arguments. It appears to still be a public right-of-way. In terms of process,
Can I interrupt?
sure.
Is this portion here Class 5 or 6?
There's a small piece of 5 right in the middle. There's a house right about where the pin of my pen is. And it's an old brick cake. It's referred to as the Keller Place. And it is a maintained road up off the road, off Corner Road to that residence. So we have a series of segments, and this little piece right here is the only Class 5 component. The building permit request is for this lot right here.
And we do have a blow-up of that included in our material.
Yeah, I've got
Refer
some other
to
maps
that,
that
right.
show as well. But the 41, Roman 1, and it lays out basically what you need to do if you were to issue building permits on Class 6 roads. There are 3 requirements. First off, the governing body, meaning the Board of Selectmen, may authorize the permit only after review and comment by the planning board. That's been completed. That was completed on the 28th of January of this year, and I'll go into the substance of that. So we've completed the review and comment by the planning board. The second condition, if you will, is that by definition a Class 6 road is not maintained by the town. And the requirement to issue a building permit on a Class 6 road, the statute reinforces that the municipality neither assumes responsibility for maintenance, because otherwise it would become a 5, which we typically would not want to do on a Class 6, nor does it assume liability for any damages resulting from anyone's use of that road. And the third condition is that a document gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds that reiterates those conditions. And we often refer to those as Class 6 road agreements, and there's a sample that we typically use. It's in your packet. So that's the process. In terms of the substantive issues, I'll put them in 3 categories. One is road improvements that have been recommended by Mike. The question of wetlands relative to those road improvements. And then third, a comment that came in from the fire department that is dependent upon the final driveway location. First of all, Mike has reviewed this as part of the planning board's review process. There's a memo in your packet laying out the scope of what he's recommended. We're about 550 feet in. The site would be accessed through here, and beginning at the farmhouse, about 550 feet into this building site. Mike has recommended several things. There'd be some brush work and very limited tree work just to reopen up the right-of-way. There would be gravel, typical road gravels put down 3 to 6 and then crushed on top to improve the road bed. And he anticipates at least one culvert would probably have to go in to divert some of the water to make sure that we don't have a washout problem in the future. His estimate for that work is in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000. And you have a memo in your packet dated 12/26/07 that speaks to those issues. Consistent with past practice, that if an applicant has agreed to make these improvements, now we're not talking full road upgrade. This is basically a beefed up driveway. Essentially, that's what you have out there now. So it's an old colonial wagon road, if you will. So there is some gravel down there, but Mike feels it needs to be beefed up, and which is consistent with one of the fire department's concerns, is to make sure that the road bed can support the weight of fire apparatus if we ever have to make an emergency on that property. So consistent with past practice, Mike does evaluate the existing conditions and makes his recommendations. And consistent with past practice, then the applicant has the opportunity to either move forward with the project on the premise that they pay for those improvements, or to not move forward. And then the third issue was raised by the fire department. It had to deal with possibly adding a turnaround off a private driveway that would go to the property, depending on what ultimate lengths we're dealing with. And until we know exactly where this property is going to be accessed from, it's difficult to say. When Mike had looked at the likelihood of needing a culvert, we went out and did an inspection in anticipation of the planning board review. That's the view looking in from the end of the Class 5 road. You see the trains pretty reasonable. And I'll just pass a couple others. This was, here again, back in the end of December. There was some water in the area. We had snow cover, so we determined the exact extent of wetlands that might be involved or might not be involved because of the snow cover. If we're adding a new culvert, and to the extent that it triggers the dredge and fill requirements, at a minimum there's a state review and probably a road review. Until the snow goes, we won't really have a complete handle on that. So on the one hand, we don't know what the extent of that permitting would be, but on the other hand, we think it to be relatively minor it's not like we're using this to develop land per se, filling extensive wetlands. It's mainly from a permit to install culvert. So those were the kind of the categories of the substantive issues. The wetlands, the need for nominal road improvements, and then in the end of the day, we would need to know, once the actual building permit's filed, we know exactly where the driveway would intersect our road, then the determination would be made by the fire department as to whether or not a turnaround is required. So that's the long and short of it, Mr. Chairman. And in the sample motion, not knowing what kind of questions were going to come up today, we just put that together that at a minimum, if you were to take action today, we recommend those conditions be placed on any authorization. Then at that time, the snow melts, we see where we are on the wetland permitting, bill with the fire department, and start working the actual building permit, but at least you would have authorized its issuance. You don't issue the permit, but you authorize bill to issue it under certain conditions. Okay. Now, one other thing to bring to your attention, it's not an issue that is going to affect the permittability of the property. But this is a copy of the conservation easement plan. Kellers were gracious enough to donate a series of easements on these properties right in here, back in the early 90s, I guess. And this easement, on the upper piece, extends, this is the lot line right here, and it extends, for whatever reason, just ever so slightly over. So this rectangle here is that rectangle. The westerly sideline is just encumbered by a conservation easement. It doesn't affect the buildability of the property per se. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. I know on the, right here, on your excerpt in your packet, we flagged the fact that there's a small piece of the property that's encumbered by a conservation easement. Okay? So that's the range road background, where we are in town, planning board comments, site photos.
John, just a quick question if I may. Where the conservation easement butts up to that, does that change the side setback requirements any at all, or pose any issues there?
I don't think it changes setback, the lot line setbacks. To the extent this is part of the pine wetland,
Right.
and my guess is that, I mean, the wetlands are not going to be linear. There could be some part of the prime wetland that might be there. Or the other thing that this could be is representing some buffer. If this was the limit of the wetland, this might have just been a little extra edge. So, no, it doesn't affect the sideline and the prime wetland. If there was some development, if they wanted to plot a house, right close here, that could raise some questions here. But on a lot this big, from a buildability point of view, there's no doubt in my mind that there's a building site on a 10-acre piece. But we don't know exactly. In all likelihood, it's going to be down here somewhere.
Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question, John. This map that was in our packet, this piece of Old Stage Road, this is class 5, is that correct?
There's 5 up to just in here, maybe it's 6. And 6. I think there's a house just about in here, approximately. This is 5 here. Everything else is 6.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of 5 up off this
That
road.
was just the lot. right?
That's the lot in question. Yep.
Okay.
And this was all, what might be marking on here. If you look at 1, 2, and 3, this 3-lot job right here. These 3 lots were created by the planning board in '79. So when we went to pull the plan to see if there were any clues there about any discussion of roads or limitations, some of the old stuff you might see limited to a woodlot or something like that. And this is just a small view of it. There were no plan notes. Moving back to the minutes, there was minimal minutes that didn't shed any light. And so it's basically a 3-lot creation of the planning board back in '79. So there's not a lot of other history on it.
And this is class 5?
That's Winona Road. That's a state road. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it's way off.
No, it's hard to read. It's so small.
Okay.
So one of the questions was which way we're gonna come in. This is a state road, this is a town road, they're coming in off the line. And there's a, that's pretty much it. This is 6 all the way to here. And so they came down this way, and
Why'd you get that?
greater wetland impact, and steeper run off the Homer Road. This is a flatter approach
Yes, the grades over there, real big.
on the other side.
Coming down.
Yeah, on the other side. So that's pretty much it, where we're at.
So any other questions? Chuck?
Yeah, I'm still a little bit of a loss as to where, that culvert, if I remember the day that we went out there when you took the pictures, I thought that culvert was right where we started walking when the snowplow was.
Now, what happens is that obviously this low spot, this brook and everything is a low spot in the land. When you come in off Patch Corner, the road goes gradually down. There's a culvert here, and then you go past the culvert, and somewhere over in here, there's a house. So it's significantly past that.
Okay.
So the house is in here somewhere. This is actually a 5 right up to it. So the culvert coming in from Hatch Corner Road, the brook itself, you hit that culvert before you hit the house. And so when we talk about the planning board level, there is some runoff. This is a hilltop, Oak Hill. Greenhouse is this hill right in here.
Mhm.
And so there's some runoff coming down this way, but it's not directly behind the wall. It's not that brook.
So this,
These pictures of the brook in the vicinity of where we walk is not the brook. It's not
no,
Patch Brook. It's not the same direct line.
so that property is not a flood, class 5 road.
No, it's not a class 6 road.
But I didn't know if the edge of it, how far up that 5 went.
Well, the house isn't mapped, but if we go to the house and turn around, we went out that day where we hiked over the snowbank, was essentially, every turns around, it's back. So that's essentially the end of 5, where we started to walk in. Just as a practical matter, being the limit of what we and then where we walk in, where that log landing was, that's the general area of the frontage of the subject lot, which clearly is on non-maintained. That was looking at this picture.
Yep.
So, down here.
That's turning around, looking back, I think it was left in.
This is after we hiked over the bank, looking in this direction.
Okay, yep.
And this is where the grades start picking up back.
So again, we are absolutely certain that this lot does not touch the existing lot.
As certain as I can be.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, when you get into issues of where the town maintenance starts and stops and where things are discontinued, this is a discontinuance, to the best of our knowledge, not by any vote of the town, just by the practical lack of maintenance that occurs for a period of time, and it falls into the class 6 category by default. So we don't have black and white plans that say, here's where a vote was taken or anything like that. It was created when range roads were created historically, maintained by the Keller residents, and from that point back this way, it's not been maintained for enough period of time to render it a class 6 road.
Class 5 road?
6.
6.
That's why we're,
Oh, because of lack of maintenance?
Right.
Okay.
and that's in part relying upon some of Harold Wyatt's reference work. I mean, clearly it's not a maintained road. The question is how long, and his recollection of it was, is that it hasn't been maintained for a long period of time.
So how are we going to maintain the turnaround for plow trucks where it is now, if the road's going to continue? Where are they gonna turn?
Well, our trucks would continue to probably plow to the point where they plow currently.
Sit there and plow it up against the person's
And
driveway?
that's a good clarification, because if your understanding was that we would turn around, we would extend the 5 up to their driveway, that's a whole different animal. That would be a reclassification of the roadway, and that's not what we're talking about. So there could be a turnaround that would be maintained privately at that location if need be. But we would continue to plow to the point that we always have, and they would be responsible for private maintenance from that point forward. Like we have
The reason I'm asking the question is right now what they do is they plow up to the end, they stop back into the guy's driveway and turn around and back out again. So this is going to impact the way they maintain the section of class 5. They're not going to have that flexibility of.
And the best I can say, if that was a concern to Mike, he probably would have raised it. It's not yet.
That's the reason I was wondering why we're going to the high level of 3 to 6 on the west of that extension in, if we're not going to end up.
No, it's to have a reasonable roadbed that would allow emergency services to get to the property. We have done something similar up at the end of Hatch Corner Road. We've done something similar at the end of Roxbury Road. We did something similar up on Cass Hill Road. Those are 3 that come to mind. Road upgrades, we're not maintaining them. By definition, it's a 6 and it stays 6, but we have to beef it up so that if we had to make a run to the property, we're not going to lose a piece of equipment at Miller's Field. But it has to be maintained privately.
Bob?
Yeah. Yeah, the
Oh,
really,
and another one, excuse me, is the Leeds at the end of 1100.
Which one?
Class 6 road here. So we've had the same, similar process in terms of private investment in the public class 6 right of way, but then maintained privately to that property, to that property, to that property, and to the property actually in New Hampton. Those are some that come to mind where there have been upgrades to the road that were driven by community recommendations and then privately maintained. So essentially it functions like a driveway. On the ground, it would look and feel and function like a driveway, except it's a public record.
Bob?
at a very minimum, we need to make sure that any motion includes the requirement that the property owner post signs on both sides of this road where the class 5 ends to alert people that they're going onto a private road and
Class 6. Different,
it's a
right?
private driveway, okay? And they do so at their own risk. That's consistent with practice agreement.
Does that need to be a condition?
Yeah, it should be part of the motion, so that there's a firmly established record, so that in the future, if those signs disappear, somebody gets out on that road and has a problem, there's no question that the person that owns that land is responsible for that posting, make the public aware.
So posted signage at the end of the class 6
But
roadway.
in the class 5,
That's what I'm saying, the class 5 roadway, designating that from that point forward, it's class 6, and they proceed under at their own risk.
right?
We have a similar, not the exact same sign, but we have a similar signage one where we have
Saddle
some
Hill Road.
roads that don't have winter maintenance. It's flagged before you proceed that it might be plowed, but doesn't mean that the town maintains it, so be careful. It's just another flag.
Saddle Brook, there's a couple, right? Pick up. Okay.
I had a couple questions.
Yes, Bob?
Not to impede the owner's right to obtain a building permit, but to protect the buyer. You viewed this property during some significant wet time, and you documented some real significant quantities of wetlands. I understand it's a substantial piece of property, but so is the wetland complex. My concern is, before we take action, wouldn't there be some wisdom to walking it once, late spring, once things have dried out a tad, to see that we're not making a building lot that's truly not buildable, as it's totally wet?
I think there's a lot of wisdom in making sure that we get our arms around the requirements for the driveway, to make sure that the wetland issues are fully understood. So I agree with that aspect of it, and we've built that into the draft, is that they would have to, go coordinated through Bill's office and go through all the wetland permitting that's involved, to make sure that is in fact addressed. Short of that, if this board wanted to go walk the property, or I don't know if that's what you're looking
No,
to.
I'm talking
We're
about
just-
you and Angela. It
Well-
just looked like, when you viewed it, it was so wet. And we're talking in the dead of winter, so you've got some significant movement of water for there to be, the pictures that you have. That was a concern that was raised by the planning board, and therefore an issue that, needs to come to the surface again at this level. Are we protecting, I guess, enough the person who's gonna buy this property?
Well, I think under item number 3 of the recommended conditions, it says prior to either the issuance of a building permit or the construction of required road improvements, the applicant shall obtain all necessary wetland permits and approvals as determined by the code enforcement officer.
One thing, this is editorial on my part. If I were buying it, I'd want to make sure all the permits were in place before I bought it. But I'm not coordinating a real estate transaction, I'm just guiding you through the statutory
Right.
requirements. So it's a fair question. At what point does the wetland issue get addressed from a regulatory point of view? And I'm not driving that train, so I don't know if the owner plans to go get those permits, or becomes a condition of P&S, or I don't know how they're structuring it. What I've said from my point of view is that we shouldn't issue the permit until we have the wetland issues addressed. So in other words, we'll be the bad guy and hold up the building permit under item 3, and saying we're not going to issue the permit until we know in fact that you have the permits to get here. Okay? So I think that addresses our primary responsibility, how the buyer and the seller structure the deal relative to when they close and who pays for what, who does what. I don't want to venture a guess at how they structure that. I know I wouldn't want to take full responsibility for the property until I knew that everything was shaken out and clearly understood. But in terms of the town's piece of it, we flagged it pretty well.
Okay, well, which is a follow-up, with the notes that you submitted to the planning board, you've got a statement, we made a site visit and inspected, we weren't exactly sure where the lot is. There's a lot of snow and we're unable to see, any pins. And I recognize that was an issue. I guess it's dovetailing with Chuck's question, are we fairly certain that we viewed the lot that's being in its actual locale?
Well, that would be subject to a survey, if that was.
Well, absolutely,
something
but
that
the
was
road issue is.
your desire to be done. Right. Yes, Bob?
I think with the conditions that are put on here, that the town has exercised due diligence, not only to protect the town, but to give the buyer heads up as to the different issues that will be involved. And it says clearly, we're not gonna issue a building permit till all this stuff has been met. So I don't see the need to delay our action any further. And this doesn't mean that they're gonna be able to get a building permit in the near future until they have the wetland delineation and got all the dredge fill permits and everything.
I believe, and I wasn't in on this particular meeting, but I believe Mike had met with the owner when he had walked it initially prior to his December 10 memo. He's alluding to the fact that he met with Dan Keller to review it. So I think Mike has probably the best feel of where it is. Except when I wrote my report, Mike, Angela, Chuck, and I were out at the same time. Didn't have the benefit of that discussion.
One last follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Is there any merit to having a bond posted for the road? Does that make any sense so that it does get beefed up, so if we've got trucks going down
Have you
there for a
referred to
fire?
in the
Well,
language?
the way it's structured in this draft is that and I talked about this with we hadn't required bonds in the past, not that that's right or wrong. And so we looked at clarifying that prior to the issuance of the CO, DPW would sign off that the road improvements are in per specification.
Okay.
So they'd have a building they couldn't occupy if they don't do it.
Satisfied.
And Mike was okay with it.
And it's a sidewalk that's also approved by the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So my job isn't to push this along too fast, as much as just kind of explain the background and lay out how we've structured it, so we think we could proceed on a rational basis moving forward and without compromising any of the steps that have to be taken. They're looking to try to get a sense as to whether or not you guys would authorize the issuance of the permit. That's the big political nugget at this point. And if the answer to that is yes, then probably my guess is a few other pieces will start falling into place, and the snow goes away, and someone will do some more delineation.
They'll start spending some money. Yeah, basically what it boils down to.
Yeah, but prior to that.
But they'll know what conditions they have to satisfy.
They'll know that it'll be.
Just looking down through them, it seems like it does cover the full gamut of what would at least protect the town's best interests, and I guess any prospective buyer, looking to say this is gonna be a buildable lot, would step forward and say they've got to meet all these conditions to bring that road, up to certain standards before the building permit would even be issued, or occupancy, certificate of occupancy would be issued in the building permit. So I think looks to me like this is a good preliminary part of the process. It follows up on, as John said, the RSA, which says basically has to go for the planning board for their review, and then they're now saying, here's conditions under which we can live, and then we want to cite the 9 conditions that we have here as recommended, and allow the applicant to, shall we say, make a decision as to how they're going to proceed. Wouldn't have to come back to us at that particular point in time. I think that's the advantage. We know what requirements specifically they have to comply with. Yes.
Yeah, I believe that the recommended motion, with its 8 conditions, is adequate, as long as we add a 9th condition. The signs would be placed stating that it's not a public maintained road, passage or at risk, and also that the signs would be maintained by the property owner. So if in 5 years one came down or wanted to make this wall, it would be the property owner's responsibility to replace it.
That could also be done by modifying the municipality. So
Yep.
and the applicant shall install and maintain signage, evidence, and such.
So rather than, so
Just
incorporated
as a
into
Yeah,
5.
that's an easy way to do it.
Yep.
Yep.
Applicant shall install and maintain signage, evidence, and such, because here you're talking about the process and liability and that's. See a problem with that, John?
DPW could probably make it, like we do private road signs, if you will, and just, that way there's a little continuity, and it looks like an official sign, people pay attention as opposed to be supplied with the outdoor trees. All set?
Yep, I think so.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, on this, if the question is, you do have this agenda item for action
Mhm.
this evening, so if there aren't additional questions, as you could go for it, John could give a brief overview, which you've gotten your questions answered, and could proceed with.
And that certainly would then give some room for public to comment. We do have a couple of minutes. I mean, if there is a comment from the public on that, we can take it now and incorporate in our considerations. Just
I
if you
would
would
say-
just identify
Oh,
yourself.
sure, I'm Robert Felch, I'm actually the listing agent and the selling agent in this transaction. So if you have any questions, and I have a letter from Mr. Keller saying that he said
I don't believe that I have any specific questions as
Okay.
far as either of the buyers or the owners. I mean, they'll see what conditions are required, and they may have
I
some.
think they're
some-
prepared for
They may
it.
have some questions of our staff before they're all done.
Yeah, I know the buyer is expecting
Yep.
to have to do what you have just laid out there,
Yep.
so I don't think it'll be an issue.
Good, well, it's good for the record to show that conversation's been had.
I think they were present at the planning board meeting, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
was, yes, the buyer was, yeah.
Right. Okay. I guess that would be it for that area there. W0823, and do we have any buried items?
The only item I was gonna bring up, unless the board has questions on anything that was forthcoming, as you recall, we had various items that were pending in discussion. We looked at having, we have outstanding a development agreement with the senior housing. We've had workshops, the last workshop that was here, you basically charged us to go back and come up with a finalized agreement with Ray Corber working with the applicant. That's been moving forward, and initially the board determined they'd like to meet on that topic April 28th. In discussion with Jim Murray representing them, they've been moving forward, wanting this done yesterday versus delaying so they could start moving forward. And in discussion with Ray Corber, we are meeting with them this week to finalize from their end and our end a development agreement as well as legal review. So with that, it should be able to move forward at your April 7th meeting, which is the first meeting in April. And I believe at that meeting, the only individual that wouldn't be present is the chairman, and I spoke with him on that already. So if that's something, if it's not ready, then it'll be coming forth whenever it is. But if it is ready, is that something the board wants to have discussed in workshop first, as we did with this item, and then action at the meeting that's following? Or would it be ready to just go forth at the regular meeting? The development agreement, I believe, the first one we had with Laconia Area Land Trust, we did have it in a workshop and then approved it at the meeting. So if that's the case, you'd have a workshop on that April 7th to go over the agreement, and then potentially have it as an agenda item also at the regular meeting, so.
My take on that, Carol, is we probably would want to have a workshop, because there were some questions that still are being negotiated. And it's everything from waiver requests to some other very important questions. So my guess is that certainly should be done in a workshop fashion before it goes in front of a regular scheduled meeting, whenever that may be. I have.
We have a new agreement plus highlighted the changes.
Right. And just for the record, I mean, I obviously have a lot of confidence in the four of you that are remaining, so, I mean, the only reason it should not be delayed, is because of somebody's absence. I mean, I think we've made it pretty clear where most of us on a preliminary basis are coming from, and I certainly would leave that up to your capable hands to do that in my absence. But I do think, just to get it in proper order, that it should be workshop format with some time for us to take a look at where those final negotiated changes and requests are, and then go forward from there.
Okay, if it's ready.
7th or the
we'll-
28th, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
As long as it goes through the process and we're comfortable with it.
I'd like to see us take it up on the 7th. I've always been a big fan of moving stuff through here as quickly as we can. There's always a ton of stuff coming behind whatever it is.
Well, I think that's one reason why we're looking at the building permit request. Typically, we do have that in a workshop, and then we may delay, till the next meeting to put it into our permanent meeting. But it seems like we got it pretty well covered. And I took the liberty of just saying, we'll have it as agenda. I'm as agenda item in tonight's meeting and feel comfortable making a decision. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Fine
just
with that. And the
didn't want to make that
continuity of-
assumption without,
The
without mentioning it.
continuity of discussing
Yep.
things in workshop and then acting on them in.
It's better for everyone's perspective.
Right, and it allows things to be posted, the public is well aware of what we're doing, and
So that item, if it's ready, I'll move forward. If it's not, we'll delay it. We'll know this week if it's gonna be ready for,
Yep.
the April 7th. And that was the only item I wanted to bring up. I don't know if the board has anything else, under varied items.
All right, I think that covers those items. We do have a regular meeting at 5:30, but we do have a need to go into non-public per RSA